Good afternoon, Ms. Clancy. Thank you for participating in EASMC's endorsement process. This interview will be recorded and posted to YouTube. Please remember to speak clearly so that your answers can be heard. For purposes of this discussion, educators are referring to all school employees, and some of us may have our head down. We're just taking notes. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I am Mary Ann Tomasic. I'm a career advisor. I work at the Chesapeake Public Charter School as well as the Virtual Academy, and I support students at our technical center.
My name is Jennifer Knight. I am a kindergarten paraeducator at George Washington Carver Elementary.
I'm Elaine Deems. I'm a special education paraeducator at Leonardtown Middle School.
Alexis Bloom, Community School Coordinator at Spring Ridge Middle School.
Good afternoon, Katrina Mills, Business Service Manager at Spring Ridge Middle School.
Thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us what are your priorities for the state budget and what, if any, tax changes would you support?
Well, I would love to prioritize universal pre-K as well as universal school meals and increase and sustain general funding for our school mental health program. Those are my three top priorities. And, you know, I look at taxes as an investment that we all choose to participate in as community members. And I believe that in order to ensure that there is enough funding for all three of those programs, we may have to be realistic about what taxes will look like. Nobody likes to hear about increased taxes, so my hope is that with a lot of collaboration, we can reallocate to prioritize these three proposals that I'm looking for.
Thank you.
What experiences or perspectives have shaped your views on public education?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I was raised by a public school educator, married into a family of public school educators, became a public school educator, and I have five. How many children do I actually have? I have a small basketball team of children that all go to St. Mary's Public Schools, ranging from kindergarten through 10th grade. My experience as a public school educator was first as a special education assistant and then as a school counselor. I've also had experience as a COVID pandemic homeschooling mom and noticing how hard all the public school teachers have worked to ensure that our kids were having their education afforded to them while under such incredible strain personally. And homeschooling in that capacity shifted for different kids in my house. Some of them needed to be legit homeschooled, and others really did work really well with the virtual school program. So seeing the diversity of what my own 5 kids needed, as well as what I had seen as a public school educator and what every family needed when they entered my office for counseling, I feel like I have a good lens as to how to meet people where they're at, how to give them grace, and how to collaborate with other colleagues to ensure that each kid has exactly what they need to succeed.
What's your position on fully funding Maryland's education commitments under the Blueprint for Maryland's Future?
That's a great question. I have been kind of ruminating a little bit on the blueprint itself, and I think there are a great number of starting points, and I believe that they can be shifted a slight bit in order to really get to the basic needs of what every student requires. And again, it goes back to those 3 priorities. We need to invest earlier in our education, and it needs to be across the board of universal pre-K. Every kid needs to be fed because they're not going to be able to sit in a classroom when their tummies are rumbling or if they're stressed out from things that are going on at home and they don't have their school mental health professionals supporting obtaining those resources. So again, looking at the social justice lens, that I use that as a foundation for all of my decisions. I believe that the blueprint has a great foundation, and I would like to see it pushed a little bit further into the direction of meeting every kid's needs, not just based on what a particular
you. If the state faces budget shortfalls, how would you prioritize funding for public education compared to other areas?
Another great question. Man, you guys are on it. Well, I mean, my whole platform is education is first. So, I mean, in my particular advocacy will be to ensure that the investment first and foremost goes into our public schools. An educated populace are ones that can be mold breakers, they can be the innovators, they can be the challengers to the status quo, and they become part of, those kids grow up and they become part of our economy. And so we need to invest young and ensure that these children are nurtured as we do it for any one of our own children. And that's how I view it. All these kids are my kids. I want my kids to be treated well, and I want all of your kids to be treated well.
Thank you. What steps would you support to ensure schools serving higher needs populations receive adequate resources?
Well, first, I believe that the communication, right, between any state delegate and their local commissioners or local school board, those teachers union, having personal relationships with each school themselves so that you really do get to know what the pulse is in those higher need populations. Unless those needs are known, how can you help fix it? You need to know what they are. So my hope is that there will be such a strong relationship between the two of us, whatever capacity you hold, that you can just call up and say, this is what we need, and I will have such a wonderful relationship with every other delegate in Minneapolis that we will come to the table and make it happen. Is that lofty? Absolutely. Am I ambitious? Yes. And yet I do believe that with appropriate communication, we can all work together to ensure that these children are able to receive their resources.
Sorry.
Yep.
How should the state address the growing behavioral and mental health needs among students?
Well, hire my friends. Hire more of them. Put them in for longer hours. Make sure that there are after-school programs available that can support it. I think over at Oakville, they have a really wonderful counseling program that is offered after school hours so that families in need can come in for quality counseling so they can get those resources met based on that individual family need. We need more of that. And it can't be grant funded. Once a grant goes away, it disappears, and those families then suffer. The therapists themselves, the school counselors, everybody in the school who is relying on mental health resources to ensure that their classroom is run more efficiently and more effectively, that you're doing your job and you get to have standardized test scores that are rising up, and you have half your kids leaving school and they want to come back. All of those are measures of success, in my opinion. And we need so much more of it. It needs to be more robust.
What role do you see community schools and wraparound services playing in supporting student success?
I think I maybe have just answered that in a way. I believe that the community schools idea should be implemented in every school. I know we have select areas in our county, but again, as a former school counselor myself, and I've having worked in social services, I think it's not us who, right? I think we need to have those services available to every kid. So again, ensuring that we have more is going to be part of my mission.
How should the state measure school success beyond standardized test scores?
Yes, that's the creative approach, right? I don't personally believe that standardized test scores are a true measure of anyone's capacity for success. I think it's a measure, not the only one. So looking at, again, the confidence levels, right? If you're polling students, how safe do they feel in your school? How safe do they feel going to you as their educator? How happy are the parents knowing that they are fully embraced by the school system? Let's then look at the teaching staff as well. How well do they feel going into the school system? Are they proud to come home and say, gosh, all my kids love them, it's great. I've seen, as a counselor, having staff coming into my room and sharing their distress. I do think we need to ensure that staff also have as much baseline, it sounds really simple, that surveys would be helpful, but also measuring the attendance rates. Are we coming back to school? How long are they staying in school? Are people moving into the community because they hear such a great reputation? Are they staying from K through 12? Are they then investing for those kids staying in St. Mary's County or neighboring counties to go to their higher education training or their job training? I think those are definitely indicators of the success that we're looking for. And among other things, I'm open to ideas, but those are some of them.
Thank you. Why should educators and school employees trust you to advocate for public education in the Maryland legislature?
Well, because I've been one. I've lived it, and I'm invested fully because my kids go to school here. Their friends are here. They're going to grow up together and build a community here. Long after we're gone, they're going to be the ones who sustain this community. I don't know. School feels like home to so many of those students, and I know it felt like home for me. And so I hope that with the experiences that I've had, and even speaking in front of the Board of Education and meeting with Board of Education members, that we have shown our commitment, my family and I, to ensuring that this school system is as successful as possible.
Many school systems struggle to recruit and retain education support professionals due to low wages and limited benefits. In addition to the ESP Bill of Rights, what policies would you support to address these issues?
Oh, yeah, and the bill, that I was really impressed with that bill of rights. Again, living wage is very important, right? You can't just simply live off the minimum wage. Most ESPs, most other qualified teaching staff are getting second jobs. And that's what's a strain. Your bandwidth is reduced. Your threshold for distress is reduced. In order to ensure that quality of life is top-notch in St. Mary's County, we're going to need to make some small adjustments along the way to ensure that there is an equitable investment in those staff members who are helping to keep everything afloat. So my first and foremost would be to make sure that everyone is able to have their basic needs met through the salaries and benefit packages that are presented as best as I feasibly can.
Thank you for joining us today.